wake up Belize. Another day is here. Wake up Belize, we gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up Belize. Voice our opinion and place a calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show my people. Believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's all we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that we feel happen like I got blue skies. I love it when people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up Belize. Another day is here. Wake up Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in from work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time? Calling is a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up Belize. Another day is here. Wake up Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up Belize. Everybody gotta put the time in. Wake up Belize. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show my people. Believe our hopes so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's all we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that we feel happen like I got blue skies. I love it when people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up Belize.
All right, welcome. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes on a Friday morning, the last Friday in November, close to the end of the hurricane season, but with climate change, you don't know if we're not get something in December. So stay cautious and stay focused. We welcome you to the program this morning. I'm Nuri Mohammed. Very dynamic guest that will be in studio, and we'll keep the phone lines open so that we could engage. Unfortunately, yesterday we didn't get that chance, but today we will. We have certain steps that we go through before we get into the main course. We get an update from Ms. Kamabat at the Met Office, and then we'll give you our news package for this morning. We're happy that you're here with us, and you won't regret staying with us for the entire show this morning. Ms. Kamabach.
A northerly airflow supports fair and mostly dry conditions. The 24-hour forecast for Belize and her coastal waters calls for sunny skies today with a few cloudy spells, and high temperatures today are expected to reach 85 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, to 89 inland and 77 over the mountains. Tonight, the skies will be mostly clear with low temperatures of 76 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast to 67 inland and 62 in the higher elevations. Little to no rainfall is expected. The winds will blow from the north to northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and the sea state will be light sharp. A high tide will occur at 9:20 a.m. followed by a low at 2:28 in the afternoon. Another high will occur at 8:22 tonight and a low at 3:50 a.m. The sun will rise at 6:06 this morning and set at 5:16. The moon set at 3 minutes past 4 this evening and comes up at 5:33 tomorrow morning. The outlook for Saturday and Saturday night is for similar weather conditions to prevail. In the sargassum forecast, impacts, if any, from sargassum will continue to be minimal as observations show little to no sargassum over area. And in the tropical weather outlook for the North Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico, Tropical cyclone formation is not expected during the next 48 hours. And that's your morning forecast that was prepared here at the National Meteorological Service.
The first private radio in Belize, 1989. Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
The Belize National Teachers Union, BNTU, has expressed utter frustration at a 3-month delay in the payment of increments and allowances for some teachers. In a release on Thursday, the union said there has been no movement on the part of the ministry and management to get the payments out. The allowances include rural hardship allowance, commuting and responsibility allowance. The release states, quote, "Our members are outraged at the cost of living as the cost of living continues to escalate while the responsibilities and demands of the profession continue to mount, and yet they are expected to function and respond to these demands as if all is well," end of quote. The BNTU affirms that it has done its part to collect relevant data, but on the other end, they are met with excuses as to why payments are not being made. The union affirms that it will no longer continue to beg for what is rightfully theirs. In 2023, the Central Bank of Belize introduced changes to the fee structure in the banking sector. It was called Practice Direction 7 and was to benefit the consumer. The domestic bank fought back, with the Belize Bank initiating a legal challenge and other banks subsequently joining in. That was aborted when an out-of-court discussion ensued. As a result of the negotiation, it was agreed that all ATM fees would be capped at 25 cents and fees would be eliminated for early payout of residential mortgages. Additionally, also discontinued were fees for account closures, maintenance fees, waiver fees, fees for letters for salary releases, and others. However, several months later, the domestic banks introduced their own changes to the fee structure, hiking up the prices of some transactions. That included over-the-counter withdrawals and bank check deposits. We asked the governor of the central bank, Kareem Michael, if this was a vindicative move and whether they have assessed if customers are losing out more as a result of this.
People looked at it as if they were being vindictive and obviously only going after more money.
And I can't argue against that view at all. I will say that the increases on this side should be less than the overall activity within the financial system. So the way how online transactions have been growing and growing exponentially versus how many people still actually want to go into a bank and wait in line to do over the counter. And also, I think it is slowly sinking in within those people who are still using checks that it is not the way to go. There are better ways to conduct financial transactions, but I'm not the one to tell somebody who has his entire system built around checks to move away from checks. It's unfortunate that there was a spike on the other end, but objective is financial inclusion and increase access to services within the financial system. And when we talk about services, more efficient, more digital forms of payment. And one of the other projects which we will talk about the next time is our fast payment projects. I want everything to be on the access from your phone. That's what we should be doing and what we should be moving towards.
Michael says that they will start publishing bank charges on the central bank website for customers to see who has the most competitive fees. The Transport Department has condemned a physical assault upon a traffic warden by a passenger on the bus earlier this week. The warden, Kendrick DeShiel, attached to the Belize City Council Traffic Department, had boarded a bus after 9 a.m. on Tuesday due to the public transport vehicle carrying standees. An angry Evan Kane assaulted him and pushed him out of the bus. Kane has since been remanded to the Belize Central Prison. He was arraigned on Thursday and pleaded guilty to aggravated assault. The Traffic Department, in its release, states, quote, "Such acts of violence against traffic enforcement officers are unacceptable and contravene the provisions of Section 242 of the Criminal Code. The Department of Traffic reminds the public that all traffic wardens possess the power and authority of a member of the Belize Police Department when executing their duties in accordance with the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act. Their authority is integral to ensuring public safety on Belize's roads, and any form of aggression towards these officers undermines the rule of law." End of quote. The department also notifies that the matter will be investigated and sanctions will be brought against the bus company for any offenses or violation of their road service permit. The department reminds bus operators that it is an offense to carry excess passengers. The Central Bank of Belize is conducting an investigation into the discovery for the first time of an unauthorized use of an ATM. The machine was discovered inside the Caribe Blue Casino in San Pedro, and even more concerning is that the machine spits out U.S. currency, avoiding all the regulatory requirements of getting a permit for foreign currency. The governor of the central bank, Kareem Michael, was asked about this on Wednesday.
So we're under the anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism framework, of which the central bank is a member or part of NAMLAC. The central bank has supervisory authority for the financial institutions that I listed earlier in the presentation. Casinos and these other non-financial entities fall under another member of NAMLAC, namely the FIU. So I can't speak to the Casino Gaming Board and the regulator or the appropriate supervisory authority response to how they would deal with that situation.
So how would you all receive information or become aware of these sort of suspicious transactions, if not through the Gaming Control Board, through the FIU?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there again is the supervisory authority. Now there is an opportunity, I think this is what you're suggesting, is whether or not there can be greater cooperation among all entities such as this, because it is one anti-money laundering framework. And again, there's a NAMLAC committee where such things can be presented and tabled, and everybody is involved.
In what ways can these sort of unauthorized foreign currency exchanges disrupt the foreign currency market here in Belize?
Well, the thing that we fear is having a dual exchange rate within the system. This was evident when Casas de Cambios was legislated. So we saw in instances where the US dollar was bought not at $2 Belize, but it was approaching close to $3 in the heights of Casa de Cambios. So we don't want to create a parallel market and a dual exchange rate by having some other mechanism outside of the framework which currently exists dictate another price for US dollar.
Is it a common practice to have ATMs and casino machines in Belize under the National Payment System Act?
Absolutely not.
We searched on Amazon and found ATMs for sale, though only a couple, which look like the kinds that are used in Belize, selling for about 5,000 Belize dollars. Of course, that does not include shipping costs. A cursory search of ATM costs puts the upper price at about 16,000 Belize dollars. And that's our news package for this morning, the 29th day of November 2024. There's more news in the program that follows us, which is the Morning Stew. That would be about 12 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, there's also an update. And at 5:15, there is a full news broadcast on CREM Radio. Here on XTV, we bring you the entire news broadcast at 6 o'clock this evening. It's now 9 minutes to 7 o'clock. We'll take a short break, come back, and open the phone lines for this morning. As we said, we expect to have guests a little bit later on in the program. Stay tuned.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current.
right, welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Friday morning and our telephone lines are now open at 280-5848. You're welcome to call in and to weigh in. As I said, we do expect to have a guest a little bit after our 2 cents cam. But for right now, our phone lines are open and you are free to call and to weigh in. And we do expect those who didn't get in yesterday, who were trying to make it in yesterday and couldn't, today and now is your opportunity. 280-5848, and you're welcome to call. Belize's economy has bounced back, meaning that according to the figures, the stats, the Institute of Belize, we are doing much better economically, despite the fact that you still complain that things they go up on the shelves. Welcome, caller. Hold on, sir. I'm sorry. Please, again, I had it toned down.
I said I'm calling in connection with yesterday's broadcast.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
First of all, a quick observation on the central bank component.
Uh-huh.
I understood the Belizean people were being told that you have a large amount of unbanked people in Belize, people who don't have a bank account.
Right.
And that if they are brought into the system, then the price of credit will go down.
It sounded like that.
That seemed to me to be, that was what was being conveyed, but that is totally wrong in the banking system. So I don't know if that is what was being conveyed, and then why didn't the media friends or I don't know what happened in the other, question that, because that is not correct. You're not implying that by forcing people and pushing people and shoving them to get into the banking system, then we'll all get credit cheaper. That's not how it works. Just go and check out the Federal Reserve man in the United States. So that's what, and then check out the strengthening of the dollar against all international currencies. There are many things that determine credit, and one of them is definitely the Federal Reserve makes, and it's the marketplace that's deciding that. Inflation is one of the components, but don't sell that to people, man. When you're going, if you want people to do something, tell them the truth, tell them the real situation. So that's my first of it. I only caught that, I didn't catch that whole report, but I caught that and I thought, no, here it goes. And then I noticed when you brought on your guest right away, so you didn't have time to address it. I know if you were planning to address it, but that needs to be addressed. Now, my second issue, Nuri, is with the discussion with Dr. Carl. First of all, you didn't have, the program didn't allow me to call back to make a correction. At no point was I seeking to convey my second observation that there were no indigenous populations in the country. That was not the issue. I asked whether the document signed, the agreement signed, I think he said it is in 1853, between the British and the Mayan refugee population. Well, which of the populations was it signed with? Was it signed with the Mayans who came from Alcatraz en masse, or was it signed with the Indian groups that came from the north? Why did I ask that, Nuri? Because my understanding again, we were being led to understand, and I don't say that this is intentional, but this is what you end up with, that this paper, this document, can constitute evidentiary material in the case in Belize's case on the Guatemala matter before the ICJ ICJ. And I made the point intentionally that in the case of the case of the ICJ that took place between Nigeria and Cameroon on the Bakassi Peninsula, none of the agreements arrived at by the British with native leaders was admitted. And in the context of the ICJ, you can understand why. Because this now brings me to the next point. Sovereignty. So you're sovereign, but the concept of being sovereign over a land, as will be applied at the ICJ, is what has occurred in the Western European evolution, political evolution. And that was defined in the Treaty of Westphalia in the somewhere in the middle of the 1600. So sovereignty doesn't mean I enter a land and I grab a little piece and then I occupy it and then I become sovereign over that land. I am not saying that you're not supposed to want to be sovereign, but whether you are going to be considered sovereign over the land is a whole other matter. And that's not how it works, Nuri. That is not. So that worried me considerably. The next thing that worried me was, because later on, Dr. Carl did, I understood him to say, it was signed with the Ikaiche of the Orange Walk era. I understood him to have said. So then, it was signed with a group from the north. So how will that impinge and affect the problem with the Guatemalans at the court? Bearing in mind that the Guatemalans are approaching the court on the basis of the Treaty of Versailles of 1783, which according to that treaty, land use was given up to the north bank of the Sibun and not below, although the settlers had already long passed the Sibun. So then that issue of that paper would affect the Mexican claim to the lease. You didn't grasp that, did you, Nuri, or did you catch on to that implication?
Honestly, I didn't catch that. I thought he was saying that can be used by the Guatemalans to suggest that they had people who were their subjects in Belize.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
But I didn't get the sense that was in the event that Mexicans decide that they want to.
But you see, to start with, the ICJ is not admitting. Let me give you another example from the British and the French. When the British and the French went to the ICJ on the Channel Islands, they did not admit any of the feudal treaties. Because those treaties precede the Treaty of Westphalia. You see? So if you don't know these things, that's why we should never have gone to a thing that the total population didn't properly and thoroughly understand. Because you can't pray for something that is an impossibility on the basis of the term that is taking place in. You see? So now, Guatemala, they are basing the last, I know that they designated their claim to some, over 50% of the Belizean territory is based on the Treaty of Versailles and the Convention of London. Not, so that leaves out the area to the north of the northern bank of the Sibun, which was not an ownership treaty, it was a use agreement. That's what that was. That's not that. However, if you're now basing it on the land south of the Sibun, then evidently the paper that you apply with the high chest in the north can't apply, right or wrong? That can't apply.
Yeah. It wouldn't apply.
And we have to, and now this brings me to the second matter on this, on research, on my second question, my observation on the discussion with Dr. Carr. When you heard him say Republic of the Indians, what did you understand that to be? The República de los Indios. What did you understand from that, Nuri?
Well, that when you mention the word republic, you're talking about a sovereign, established.
No, that's just the point.
Yeah.
That's just the point, Nuri. In the case, let's get the term. Respublica comes from the Latin, meaning res is thing in Latin, and publica is of the people, public, etc. So the people sing. And Rome had a republica prior to the empire, where it was run on a sort of a tribal structure of consultation and consensus, right? The Senate and the House of the plebeians, the patricians and the plebeians. So it means the people sing, and the Romans kept calling it republic up until it became the empire. They still call it, even though it had extended way beyond the boundaries of the original Rome, way beyond the boundaries. It had now included Gaul, which is modern-day France, Britain, Spain, and so on and so forth. Then that term would move down in European history to mean the rule by the people, because in pre-imperial Rome, it was ruled not by all the people, but by a greater number of people than obtained in other places. So it was a tribal type of structure, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what moved on. And that concept moved into Spanish political ideology too. And Portuguese and America and Western Europe. Now, when the Spaniards crossed the Atlantic, they didn't cross the Atlantic expecting to find an empire. So the empire happened upon them. And Nuri, for a considerable duration of time, they did not have a structure in place. Anything was allowed to happen in this new imperial undertaking because they had expected it, so there was no plan in place. Then they put a plan in place. It evolved over a period of time, and they then created a deficit. They knew they faced a problem of their own people, the Spaniards, and these huge populations of non-Spaniards, not even Europeans, that they had to take into account. So the identification of the Republic of the Spaniards refers to this body politic, the socio-political body, not a body of rulership, because rulership was in the hands of the Spanish king. Mm-hmm. But it referred, so who made up the Republic of the Spaniards? It was made up of Spaniards born on the peninsula, was Peninsulares. They have other names they gave them, and the Spaniards who would eventually be born in the Americas, born to a Spanish father and a Spanish mother, criollos, coming from the word criar, to be reared, to rear. So you were reared in the Americas, you understand? And then, later on, they realized that the real power rested in the hands of the Peninsulares, born in Spain. Somehow, political administration, legislative powers and so on was given to the criollos. And then within that structure, you had the people that was further divided into the high class, middle class, lower class, and the occupation of the people at the bottom and at the top. No Indian could participate in those professions with you. They were excluded. So now we have to deal with the Indian, with the native population, the indigenous population, and whatever name they can give it, Amerindian, Indian, all of that. To deal with them, they created a parallel concept of the socio-political body of the Indians. Not meaning with public as a political structure with national boundaries and that was part of the Spanish Empire. It was a subdivision of the Spanish Empire. But only native peoples were included in that at the beginning. Way down the line, everything got mixed up and muddled up. Because out of the intercourse, the sexual intercourse between Spaniards and Indians emerged in mestizo. And in the beginning, no Spaniards, mestizo, Creole, no Peninsular, no Criollo, no mestizo, and no black person could belong to the Republic of the Indians, the República de los Indios. Nobody, the Indians, they couldn't belong to it. You see? But as the mestizo population, and the mestizo population was scorned by both, looked upon by both the Spaniards and the natives, because they were considered half-breeds, not a value. But with time, and especially after the Wars of Independence, then there was an alteration. So this was what worried me. And you have confirmed now, if you who are a learned man can understand it, what do you think the listening public out there understood, Nuri? They understood exactly what you understood. Don't you agree?
I would think so, yeah.
And that needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
Because and so when we are going to come to educate our people, the first thing we have to do is define terms precisely. What do I mean when I say this? I know you all don't like when I do that, and I've heard them complaining in the back of the lady when I talk history. I've heard all of this theory. But I stick to, if I'm going, and I'm doing this for free, so now, if I'm doing it, I'm being paid, I'm going to do it. Why am I going to do it this way if I'm doing it voluntarily? You have to lay out your terms as they are understood by the people who originated the terms. Because La República, the República, in the context of Spain, refers to the king and the kingdom. You see? The ruler and the rule. And the rule in Spain was a rather mixed lot. To us, they wouldn't look mixed. Because in the case of the República de los Españoles in the New World, in the Americas, they spoke a single version of Spanish. A single version of Spanish dominated, let me put it that way. Because you have regional variations. Then you have Catalan, which was a whole other thing, and you have other languages and dialects spoken in Spain that don't even resemble the Latin and Spanish. You see? And they had that. They shared the same faith. Because in the beginning, Spain did not permit Protestants, Jews, nor Muslims to migrate to the Americas. They didn't want them in this because they felt they would contaminate the society with alternative theologies and so on, and all of them obtained. But at the time, they couldn't exercise the level of control they might have exercised on the managing. So all kinds of things happen. Forest in between, nobody can traverse the forest very easily. So you could do a lot of things and get away with it, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they expelled all the Jews and the Muslims when Columbus failed.
Mm-hmm.
Burned the land in the mountain of areas and all of that.
Yeah.
So they transported across the Atlantic this mess, this confusion too. And then they were faced with this huge landmass. And the Republican of Virginia was put into the management of the church for the purposes of evangelization, conversion. Because the Pope had written a paper earlier on, before 1492, designated anybody in Africa that you came upon who was not a Christian was material for exploitation. I am paraphrasing it crudely. But that's what the bull came up to. There is a paper bull and all, you know, that they did. So the precedents were laid in their relationship with Africa as the Spaniards and the Portuguese expanded from the peninsula, the mainland, into the island areas of the Azores and the Canary Islands and all of that.
Yeah.
They developed a theory of management.
Mm-hmm.
And then into the coastal area of Guinea, they expanded into West Africa. And to manage that expansion, the Pope came up with his structure, his framework.
Yeah.
That framework would be transferred across the Atlantic. So I just called to clarify those views because it really bothered me.
Yeah. Well,
I think that, do you feel that they were worthy concerns of mine or not?
No, of course. The problem that we have when dealing not only with you, Ms. Sandra, but many people who have studied our history, who have facts, you are not intentionally, but it comes across as speaking over the heads of the majority of our citizens simply because not only in this area, no, you're not intending to do that, but if we can't dissect.
So if you know what I just said, the people won't understand?
Well, I'm saying to you that I am trying to keep up, and I think I have studied the background of this, but there's so much information that you're bringing across that
that was said yesterday. I'm responding to what was said yesterday.
Yes. I'm not, listen, I'm saying that what you contributed this morning was a useful response to what we heard from Dr. Carl yesterday. But I guess I am saying in addition to that, because this is not the first time you're calling and giving these very broad macro understanding of our history. I'm saying that we have not educated our people to be able to keep up. If you were talking to a different population, more than likely a lot of what you're saying, people can fit in because they have some background to be able to appreciate what you're doing and saying. But a lot of us, unfortunately, don't have that background. Our educational system did not familiarize us.
The tragedy in Nuri that because they don't have the background, what was said, some things that was said to them, they accept. I don't think they are being said to them intentionally to take advantage of their lack of information.
Yeah.
But that's what it ends up being.
Yeah, and it's also partially to blame, and I'm saying myself included, that we who are journalists, people who are doing the interview, have to make sure that we have a certain level of understanding so that where there are areas that need clarification, we can do that. And where you see we don't do that is an indication that we ourselves as interviewers, as journalists, don't sufficiently have the kind of background to broaden because I think what Dr. Carl was sharing yesterday was extremely valuable. I think he's a scholar that is. But I'm also.
Definition was needed.
Yeah, but what I'm.
Implication was the things were implied that maybe that's not the intention, but that's what came across.
Yeah, I'm saying the same thing about you, Sister Sandra, that you're...
I've said nothing wrong.
No, it's not a question of wrong. It's a question of clarity. I think that maybe I could use the analogy of a camera and its lens. Sometimes you can see the images in front of you, but if you're not sharpening the lens, and that's what education, that's what study does, it sharpens the lens of something that you hear about, you know about, but it's not in focus. But the focus comes when you have a background to be able to analyze what that person is saying. And I relate that to you, not only this morning, but I relate that to you and your contribution consistently here. But I also say that when we are listening to anybody, but particularly scholars who are bringing information that we're not familiar with, if you have that background, you're able to sharpen the lens of your thinking and your processing, that you're able to appreciate better what is being shared. That's all I'm saying. But I gotta go.
Well, that's all right. I know you have to go, but I am a little concerned about the task is when the direction it was in, because the whole intention is not to create any embarrassment.
I don't think that.
If I say something wrong, I want to be corrected to it.
Yes.
My students all know that.
Yeah.
All my life. If Miss Corey said something wrong, don't let her go along saying the wrong thing.
Precisely.
Because you're going to get
and believe me, if you said anything wrong and I had the knowledge that you were saying something wrong, I would have corrected you. But you went in an area that is so broad that I don't dare speculate that maybe this is what you're saying. At least that's my own training. I don't get into an area that I'm not sure exactly what I'm saying, so I remain silent. And I'm saying that what you are saying, no one can challenge that except someone who has done likewise that type of study. That's what I'm saying. And I appreciate what you're...
It said about right from the Versailles and the Convention of London, right?
I think you were, as far as my knowledge goes, yes. And I think what you said yesterday to Dr. Carl was also in line. If you had said anything that was out of line, I'm sure that he would have responded, but he did not. I think he accepted your observation yesterday. But I gotta go, Sister Sandra. I thank you very much for this morning. All right, we'll take our 2 cents cam, which is sponsored by Fort Point Security, and we should have some guests coming in after this first break.
All right, so don't know you're watching WB and this is XTV and a Big Up Friday. I'm going to get the people and big up on this Friday.
Oh, I big up the Jenkins family, yo. Everybody from Martins, you know where we call from. Yeah.
Big up.
Man, I have to big up all the Amadi members, all the hard workers in Belize, everybody who try, survive, and try to do it positively, man. And big up on yourself too, bro.
All right.
My brother, I want to big up you, my brother. Just like the ball with the pass right there, brick city run the city, my brother. We listen to you all the time, all right? I put on the radio right now.
The whole mahogany, fruit blenders and Lake High School, and big up everybody, and big up myself, big up China, big up Isles, big up the whole mahogany, big up Otto.
All right. All right. But you have to give me a name?
Genevieve.
All right. Big up, right?
Top of the morning to everybody, and a big up Big City as well, and the Quem crew and the whole staff and the management and everybody. And
yeah, you're big up.
Yes, and also.
But right now,
huh?
Big up all the boy that boy workers.
Where are big up?
Big up me by Floyd, where I turn police now.
Welcome back. This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Friday morning, the 29th day of November. Actually, it's the last Friday in November, moving quickly out of the hurricane season, but at a time like this, as I said earlier, we're not sure. Maybe a hurricane might even come in December. As they said, I read somewhere that they're saying they're thinking about expanding the hurricane season beyond November and maybe into December. So we'll see. But we have our guest in studio. And this brother here actually needs no real introduction. He's so full up in the waves of Belize over the last 20, 25, and maybe even 30 years, I should say, that he needs no introduction. We welcome our brother, who's part of this family, Brother Richard Dickey Bradley, attorney at law, and a man of the people. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you, Nuri, and thanks for the invitation.
I got a long list of things to discuss with you. Long list.
Let's tackle it right away.
All right, and we will open the phone lines, but give us some time to talk to Mr. Bradley, and then we'll say maybe around in a half-hour time we'll open it so that we could have a dialogue. One of the things I wanted to jump into immediately is looking at this animal called the PCC, which is the People's Constitutional Committee, because you were an integral part of the initial move. You were, I imagine, hired or volunteered to go around the country and to introduce people to the idea of what constitutes a constitution, what should be in it and what should not be in it. And so I'd like you to give an update as to your thoughts. They've just asked for an extension of time to present the document.
A second extension?
Yeah, and we don't know what that means. But as I said, you were in there and you kind of know the thinking of the people who are in charge. So please, what's your thoughts on the PCC?
Thanks again, Nuri. I want to start off by saying that I was invited to be a presenter to go around the public sphere and to try to assist in providing information and education on the existing constitution, which came into effect in our nation September of 1981, and also to perhaps share a couple of ideas as to what we could do in Belize to improve on the Constitution. A Constitution was never and is never intended to be a static document where once they pass it, that's the Constitution. You improve the most, I've said this already, the most dynamic democracy on the planet, with all its faults, is the United States of America. And they have made changes to their constitution. Several. In fact, they actually refer to them, the First Amendment, the Fifth. In their case, it is very difficult for them to amend the Constitution because America is a federation. A federation means that 50 individual different states with their laws, their courts, their elections must agree to change the national, if I could use that word, the national federal constitution. In our case, Constitution itself, I think Section 69 provides for how our Constitution can be amended. Some sections are more protected and more difficult to amend than some others.
Tell us how, to the audience, why is ours different? We do know America goes through several amendments. We have also gone through several amendments here. But tell us what really differentiates the way in which we can make changes in our Constitution compared to the difficult process of the United States.
Okay, well, as I said, America is made up of 50 different states, and they have a federal government. They also the revolutionaries, and those guys were revolutionaries. I can't think of a high-profile female back in those days, but the men who fought against British colonialism, against the British Empire, which of course had taken control of that land. You know that the indigenous peoples who we refer to as Indians, they were slaughtered and massacred and chased out of their land, eventually literally into little reservations. And you would be surprised that there are lots of indigenous, original Indians in the United States of America. You never see and never hear them. President Obama had promised he would try his best to be of some assistance to them, but you know, he was a black man in a white man country. He couldn't make much progress with very serious matters. So their constitution, and it was intended to make it difficult to change it. They wanted, the revolutionaries wanted, and got a constitution which is your governing manual. That is how you run your nation. That is how you protect your citizens. So in their case, it's not easy to change the constitution. Most modern constitutions, of which Belize is one, have provisions within the constitution, I think we're section 69, that says how the constitution is amended. So our lawmakers, who in their capacity as the persons who make laws, it's a little concerning process, but it is to be preferred to the alternatives. The constitution says that the National Assembly, you know, and you and I have briefly touched on this, we don't call the lawmaking body in Belize parliament, although it is a parliament. We call it, and in fact the constitution names it as the National Assembly. It's an assembly of the nation. All we can go to Belmopan, go pass the law, so we elect persons to represent us. Whether they represent us or not is a different matter. Yeah, right. They get elected and they pass laws. And we must always remember about laws, that laws are an expression of the ruling elite in any country, because I don't care how you put these people, you elect them and put them there, they get co-opted into a different system and they start to represent the moneyed class, the business interests, foreign interests, and so on. So, but in any event, in terms of changing the constitution, the National Assembly has to propose the change, which is called a bill. Any proposed law is a B-I-L-L, not necessarily Bill Lindo. So you get a bill, and then, smile, I know you have a bill good while.
I'm sure
he wanted the message that by Nuri and the He recently wrote something and published it last week. So a bill is put forward that there'd be amendment to whatever section, and then they have to give a 90 days waiting period where there could be consultation with the citizens of Belize. But the big joke in that is, how do you go and consult people about something where they don't know? Exactly. They don't know about the constitution. They don't really consult. It's a sick joke on us as a country, but that period is there, and then thereafter they treat it as a law which then is discussed and debated in the National Assembly. It is then sent to a committee, and then it goes to the Senate, which, as you know, we have confirmed that the Senate is a rubber stamp, and then they rubber stamp it, and the governor have to sign, otherwise they better resign, and that's it. So we have had about 9 or 10 amendments to our constitution.
Clearly. So what is going to happen with this process for which
PCC?
They have been given an extension? That is going to be turned over to the Prime Minister first, my understanding, because they're a committee. And then where does it go from there, and how do we know how much of it, or do we know how much of it will be accepted or rejected?
Yes. Well, under the law that established the People's Constitutional Commission, they are required within a specific time frame to complete their process, and I would like to come back to that process, to complete that process, and then they would then produce a report. And that report is basically, fundamentally, a collection of the recommendations that they have received from various and sundry sources, and then that report is formally handed over to the elected leader of the country, the Prime Minister, who would then, by a period stipulated in the law, would then bring it back to the House, and then it is sent out as a referendum. But in between the lip and the hip, there can be many a slip, so that the lawmakers would have to, of course, go into it, and hopefully some of them would have access to lawyers who could explain to them. They don't need to play like they know everything. Nobody knows everything. To explain what are the legal functions. The government, as a government, has the Attorney General and his ministry, who are under the Constitution, the legal advisors to the government. They are the government's lawyers. Whenever you sue the government, you put the title Attorney General. They are blessed because there's a young Attorney General there who works 7 days a week and has an analytical mind, and they will benefit from that person, Honorable Anthony Sylvester.
Indeed.
And
so just for clarification, so when it's passed to the leader of the country, which is the Prime Minister, does that process include at any point the opposition?
No.
So it's only kept among the leading party?
Well, it goes to the government of the day, if I could break it down into those words.
Okay.
This is a report, this is an initiative from the government.
Right.
And I probably said this, but if I didn't, since they're always worried I'm criticizing them, big respect to the Prime Minister and his government that they have undertaken a first of its kind. It's never been done before. That a government has taken, a government in Belize, former colonial British Honduras turned Belize, they have taken that initiative, that risk of literally asking the people in the nation to look at the document, to say if you want to keep this document, if you want to make changes, what changes you want to make, and then that goes back to the government, because this is an initiative that comes from the government. This is a government matter. Now, the opposition happens to be in the National Assembly, though in a most truncated form. I think they have 4.5 or 3.5 members or something. One member doesn't go at all, although there's Women's Week. A woman has been elected to the House who never goes, and they don't say nothing. Make them a man there.
Yes, indeed.
So it goes to the House where, well, if anything goes to the House, that is where the opposition, which is made and established by the Constitution of Belize, you know, the Constitution. Someone else get up and say we want opposition. No.
But because it is a minority, it just has a say.
Well, that is democracy. The minority have their say and the majority have their say.
So they can't, in fact, make any input for adjusting what is presented by the PCC.
They can, in a functioning democracy, if the Prime Minister and the government considers that there is merit to the report that comes to them, they would take it to the House, and doing that, then it becomes a matter for the House of Representatives and technically the Senate as well, so you get that input. This is why the opposition is so important. We have seen some stumbles and some other things in regarding to the opposition, but I see on your list you have the opposition as a topic.
Right.
But once a matter goes to the House of Representatives and even to the Senate, then it is in the public purview, and they have a duty and a responsibility to make their suggestions. Let me raise this for your viewers and for your listeners. I stand corrected. There are two things, three actually. I'm not aware that there has been any presentation to the opposition party. I don't think any of the presenters. We have Ed Peter Usher, who is a former magistrate in this country and who is a legally trained mind and who in fact teaches constitutional law. I think there were probably, Marcel Cardona had made presentation in Orange Walk. I don't think any presenter has been invited to speak to the opposition party as a party. Neither has there been any request for anybody to go and talk to the PUP in Stan Creek or the PUP in Belize City or wherever. I heard one, I don't believe it, but it's good sharing. It costs so much for your send. If you ask like 500 PUP, if you come in here, you have to get sandwich, you got to get drink, then you think about the money, right? I personally had a wonderful experience. I want to publicly thank the commandant of both the Belize Defense Force and the Coast Guard. They had invited me to speak with them. I had a wonderful time interacting with their members. My takeaway memory, and I am grateful to a particular teacher down south. In driving to Punta Gorda to make a presentation to all teachers in both Stan Creek and Toledo, I'm thinking of, you know, what areas to focus on, what I'd say, what kind of lame joke I could put in so the thing not stale and so on. But I met a teacher, and in the course of a discussion, I had taken one of my favorite books. I should have brought it. I took Animal Farm. I bought a recent edition which is for use in the schools. It's printed in India. I happened to have gone to India. I left all my clothes, including one RI jacket. My wife is an I left all my clothes and brought back books, because books cheap in India. I tell you, cheap. It afford the equivalent of $4 Belize for hardcover.
Yes.
I had to go through that experience. So, but I had this wonderful experience, Nuri, where when I was invited to the microphone to speak, I had this inspiration. I think I may have already given the chairman, loaned the chairman a copy of the Animal Farm. But I was able to take Animal Farm, which has so influenced me. Let me pause and say this. I read Animal Farm 1 or 2 times, and I had literally laughed reading the book. Anybody that would have seen me on the veranda, hear me reading, I said, he must be kind of crazy, and I am kind of crazy. So I would laugh and so, but I read it some more times. Nobody know admit they're crazy when they're crazy too. They laugh. But I read it a couple more times, and guess what? There's nothing funny about what is.
Boy, that's a powerful book.
The way they sold out people, the way they chanced in people.
Book,
but I use it because the animals put up their constitution on the barn. No animal shall sleep in bed. No animal shall drink alcohol. All animals are equal, among other constitutions. And then they change the constitution for the animals. Most of them can't read. Who, like in Belize, most people don't know the constitution. So, you know, it was a painful thing to see a young country gone through a revolution change to be sold out and to get, they got one big circle and corner. In fact, life was worse for them under their own people, which I want to say since that come up. You know, in Belize, this is not the British or the Chancery. It is our own people.
Which is
it is our own people where the waste of. Nuri, a student asked me to assist with a thing. So I'm going through several of the annual budget, the list of the revenues and expenditures of the nation. Do you know that, I mean, I could call out a lot of things. I don't want to make any more enemies. I have my amount. But you know, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with these embassies and consulates, we are spending $39 million a year. They know they bring in new investment. You can hear, well, this one in London had a meeting with some investors and brought in.
They hear nothing.
No, they hear nothing. You know, better to spend the money right home, man.
Boy, 39 million, I didn't realize.
Listen, 39 million is 40 times 5 because it's 5 years. That's a quarter almost. So there is those things. So let's go back to your thing.
But listen, before we do that, let's take our next break. You'll be with us, you know, for the whole show. We'll open the phone lines, but 10 minutes after 8 o'clock, we'll take our second break. welcome back. This is WUB on a Friday morning, and we have as our guest a brother who blazed up the airwaves about 30 years ago with his own program right here on CREM and XTV. And yeah, he's here with us talking about the Constitution. But I got a long list of things here, Dickie, and I want to open up the phone lines. So please, if you could conclude your thoughts on the PCC and the Constitution.
Well, because, you know, one of the... Anyhow, but the point is this, that the committee or the commission which is charged with getting the views of the people in the nation, I think there was a huge stumble initially and probably lasted for about 9 to 12 months while they tried to feel their way and better understand. Because this is something new to everybody. It was my view from the outset when I was asked if I would be prepared to go on the airwaves or to travel the country and talk. And I did all that from my own pocket. I never charged the commission $1.
That's important to know.
Not $1. Nobody can say, why they can. So I did that because, by the way, it was here at CREM Radio in the good old days, which will never come back, that in fact the Constitution was given a lot of attention, that we tried to break down what are sometimes difficult legal concepts in the Constitution to the people. So there was a time in the well, CREM came into effect, what, around 89?
Yeah.
Not 89, well, somewhere late, in the late 80s?
Yeah.
Right, I was at, yes, so from CREM came into effect, CREM has been a major pusher for public information, public education.
Right.
That has slowed with the arrival of this new gadget, which I want to segue and discuss with you what Australia has passed.
Very important.
First, but let me just finish and say...
Make a plug in here for us too here at CREM TV, now XTV, is that we had a program, and you were an integral part of that along with Michelle, called You and the Law. And that program ran for a couple of years.
Oh man, that's so sad that evaporated.
I'm so sad.
You're referring to...
I don't know what happened, but I'll tell you, that was a valuable program. That was one of our most listened to programs because it dealt with exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
You know,
because you law come out, you could discuss it to the public.
Precisely.
Oh, that's the way the law mean, you know.
Precisely. So let me, we will bring that back.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Let me just mention that whole initial phase where the commission was feeling its way, having problems to accept money that had been budgeted to them and so on, that in fact you would know that we were pushing, well, I was pushing. I thought that you can't discuss the terms of reference of the commission without going through the media. Even though I was out at the Keys, I was down in PG, I was with the army around the place and others too. You can't discuss a document like what is the Constitution, I believe, what are the contents, why is it so important, and then still have to discuss what needs to be improved upon, what are some of the things, like for example, accountability of government. That is poorly dealt with in the Constitution of Belize. Because back in the 60s and the 70s, as the British were forced, following the end of the Second World War, to relinquish their control over many. You imagine that the British actually control the whole of India, my boy? I think in one of George Orwell's book, he said that there are about 10,000 soldiers. George Orwell was a policeman in one of those Indo-Chinese places. But when India had over 700 million people, the British were the ones who controlled them the way they control us. Nigeria, I mean, this is the most populous nation in the whole continent of Africa.
Don't take them for granted.
The British have the Middle East and so in a one mess, you know, they just decide that they want to give away this place to this one, they want to cut this one and so on.
Especially when it comes to Israel, it was the bad for...
Well, you know, Belize was offered as a possible site for the Israelis to have their home, but the Israelis have come to their God to say, God give them this and kill everybody and take it back.
And then they maintain that up to now.
So Nuri, I think what happened, the failure to want to spend a little, I don't know what CREM would have charged for you to have a weekly show.
No, we did. We went to the minister, and the minister, Charles, said, well, he think we the one anti-PUP station. And
okay,
I
so
said, we went there, they did not. I sent a whole proposal from Quem to say, this is how we would do it, we would educate people on this matter and so on, and he rejected it. Right?
Okay, well then by rejecting you all, they rejected all the media, because what happened is under the Constitution, the government can't discriminate, you know. You see they have this behavior like, oh, they're unhappy with crime, so now get no more advertisement, they'll give the advertisement to whichever other state. That's discrimination. Yeah,
still going on.
But by not wanting to pay you, they couldn't pay the others, so you don't get no media promoting this very vital, important exercise, because boy, Belize has lost a golden opportunity to improve the Constitution.
And we did the same thing with the Guatemalan issue. Sister Sandra called earlier this month with a ton of information that most of us can't digest, because as Mr. Golson had said over 40, 50 years ago, we should have all become conversant on this issue in Guatemala, and we have left that completely out. So that when that referendum came, it was running around like chicken with the head cut off. They try to do assembly here, the assembly here, and the assembly here. Whereas if you had been proactive, you would have included that from your primary school all the way through. Which is easy.
It's a sad thing, you know, because improving a constitution is the fundamental way of improving your country.
But I want to ask you this, and this is going to be point blank. I understand that one of the hiccup points in this revisal of the Constitution or preamble is really being, in a way, attacked by a certain sector, I'm speaking now the LGBT, that is insisting that issues such as the supremacy of God and certain other elements within the preamble ought to be augmented, ought to be adjusted to suit that particular community. And it's troubling because it's not being ventilated openly so that people could really understand, right? It's only in pockets, and you have to hear rumors and you hear, you know, and certainly Mr. Orozco has come out very strongly to make his points very clear. And in a way you could hear Pastor Wade coming out with his positions likewise, but you don't know really the intrigue of what's going on in that area. Can you comment?
LGBTQ, I should say there, my friends, big respect to Mr. Roscoe, because you know where he's coming from, you know where he is. It's the ones who don't know who are behind the scenes, who manipulate things and try to steer it in a certain way. I have heard, but probably you have heard as well, that they are concerned about this business, about supremacy of God. The Constitution guarantees freedom of religion in our society. It guarantees it to the extent that if you don't want to believe in no religion, that is your right.
Which is a growing sector in the country.
Yes, unfortunately, well, you know, we are bombarded by the United States of America, their cultural shifts and their dynamics. America took a hit with the rejection of Kamala Harris and what the Democratic Party had for years kind of resembled, you know, they're Hollywood, they're this kind of thing. You know, Donald Trump is the opposite like. Donald Trump, word is already out that they are going to start run out LGBTQ out of their military. That talking is strong in that. And he don't become the president yet.
As a matter of fact, when you think about sideline women altogether so that they cannot be in combat situation, but they go back to the role that women were playing in World War I and World War II.
Women in America are not tolerated.
You could cook, you could be in a hospital.
And support staff.
Yeah, you can't be in a
It's the transgender that he's after. You can't, because he has said it openly recently, like 3 weeks ago, that you can't be a man that take part in a woman's sports. As you know, men, they change themselves into women. I think people born a certain way that although you have the physical attributes psychologically. Or
and there are operations now and chemicals that are popular in Europe that they're trying to bring into the United
States. They got breasts.
Yes.
And you could remove your penis.
Yes.
It's a frightening thing for me, but If you want, I guess the European is if you want to move it, you move it. No, your business, do it. Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's, but they need it.
Yeah, but the point is that guess what? The law has grown, evolved, matured to a high level in the democratic world, and there's a concept that came out of India. India is the biggest democracy in the world. There is a concept that the law accepts. You know, that there's a thing called the basic structure of the Constitution. And the term explains itself in a sense, because your structure, you could look at an edifice, you could look at a building, and it is the basic structure that is really the strength of that building. You must have a foundation. It is written in the Holy Scriptures that the wise man builds his house upon the rock. It's a fool that will build in a sand. And we got some fool people build in a swamp. So you have to have that foundation. And then you could put your post, you could put whatever you want and so on it, but it's the foundation. So there are things which the law considers to be the foundation of a constitution. They can't change that.
Right.
Coming up. You can't change the basic structure of a constitution. It seems that the law is saying that the preamble, because a lot of constitutions have preamble, you know, and they go on for pages and pages. I was reading the India one and like, man, better I have a novel. I mean, it like the preamble can't done. So, but there are things that you can't change. You could tamper and try to change, but if they taken to the court will uphold that particular legal.
So what about this belief in God? Is that considered part of the...
I would think that, you see what happened is this, right? Back in 1981 when we were finally being given our independence because the British had nothing, they were caught in a trap. George Price had the ultimate Hanansi. Do you know the interesting thing? I know you're going to break right now. You know the interesting thing? Me, grew up in our opposition house. Mr. Philip Goulson had his meetings in our yard at 7 Wagner Lane. You run an electric wire, hook up, bend it, and then you run a yellow bulb, and they got a meeting. When I came back from university, Miss Emma Boyton and Mr. Philip Goulson came to my house to ask me if I'd please come and be the permanent secretary for Mr. Goulson. Eventually, it did happen. But my point is that we grew up in a die-hard NIP, UDP house and surroundings. They really 100%, like thousands of Belizeans, believed what the British had said earlier, that George Price, the sellout, believes to the Guatemalans, lock, stock, and barrel. They believe that. Now, when you read the newspapers in Britain, when you read the documents from the British, they're not rewrite it, they're not Belize Times, they're not George Price. George Price was always resisting this awesome temptation. You could get your independence, just give Guatemala from Temash River down to the Saskatoon. You could have your independence next week, just give Guatemala this. They're the ones who not only they say to him, but then they pressure and they brought in the Americans who, when they start to pressure, you're in trouble. Fortunately, in America, there was an election that brought in Jimmy Carter. And to the end of his term, because we just missed it by inches, came a man who was like Trump, Ronald Reagan, or cowboy. He's so dumb he couldn't get a good part of Hollywood. You have to just take the cowboy picture. Serious, you know. So, point is that for me, history is an interesting thing. I want to say that.
We'll hold on to that history there.
Let me change the subject.
We'll change the subject. When we come back, we'll open up the phone lines so people can join us.
All right.
We'll take the break. right, welcome back. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. Our guest is Mr. Dickie Bradley, and somebody recognized that we will have the phone lines open here at 280-5848. It's your turn to direct your question to Attorney Dickie Bradley. Welcome, caller.
Yes, good morning, Nuri.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
I am going to be devil's advocate this morning.
All right.
Talking about the Constitution.
Okay.
The next general election, how unconstitutional is that without the redistricting being done?
Powerful question.
That's a very good question.
I leave you guys with that and get off the air.
All right, good. That's not too much of a devil, though. I mean, that's a very good advocacy. Thank you. Yeah, what's your thoughts?
Well, the Constitution requires that the electoral divisions in the country, currently they are 31, wasn't always that number. It used to be 18, then it gone up, then it gone up, so it's 31. And the Constitution requires that they should be basically numerically, in terms of the number of voters, they should kind of like be as equal as is possible, taking into account distances and certain other matters. One of the shortcomings of the failure and the lack of knowledge about the Constitution is that people don't really appreciate what is involved in having equal sized constituents. And so as a result, some electoral divisions are much smaller than many others. There are really some tiny ones. Fort George and Mesop stand out because they have a handful of voters. However, the political directorate, the people who are elected to run the country, that is not a problem for them. As a matter of fact, they get elected on that little bit of numbers. Why would they? They say people don't really give up power, you know. You have to push and drag and hauling in the direction that they are to be taken. So the Belize Peace Movement in this country, which had done an exceptional job in assisting, trying to inform and educate Belizeans about the ICJ matter. We went and voted, and I don't know where to vote for. They have challenged the failure to follow the Constitution, but in terms of the court case, because of legal technicalities, which are also a part of the law, the process and procedure of the law is as much the law as the law, it was not successful. They made some slips, and those slips were kind of fatal to their approach towards the matter.
Yeah. All right, welcome, caller.
Good morning, brother Nuri.
Yes.
And look who you have, my
Well, yeah. Well, you look like the only thing you want to bring you out to call them, I mean, you look.
I can't find it much, and I don't want to chat with you a little bit, but my question right now is this.
Yes, sir.
It costs money to talk to liar.
Not a preamble. I mean, not a preamble. Schedule. Schedule 1 describes Belize in total. Okay. Then Section 2, I think, said that no law shall be made that conflicts, or in other words, with the Constitution. How come that Belize decided to go to the ICJ without amending or suspending that schedule that describes Belize in total? In other words, we have decided, forget the Constitution, let's have a referendum and go to the ICJ, when that schedule to me forms part of the Constitution.
Yeah, but
my second question is this. Are you aware, my friend Dickie, that government made certain agreements that were never reprieved or suspended? One, heads of agreement. I believe that heads of agreement is still alive. It didn't go to the House, even though there was need to make a reply and reject officially that head of agreement, which committed Belize to a lot of concessions to Guatemala. 1992 Treaty of Borders, whereby Belize agreed, signed that there are no borders, and that was registered registered at the OAS. That's 1992. 203, again, Belize agreed that our borders shall be now adjacent zones, and that we were going to create a confidence building measure. No. Then those commitments or agreements should be taken not too light, in my personal opinion. Then from there we go to the compromise. At the compromise, Minister Sedi Elrington said, I had, because of previous commitments or agreements, I had to sign the compromise. No, that speaks volumes. What did Minister Elrington meant when she said, I had no other authority but to sign because of previous agreements? No, those things here to me, bothering me, at
a mouthful.
how can they will be treated at the ICJ.
All right.
All right, let's try.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a lot there, Don Hector. That's a lot.
Don Hector is a blessing to the country because
Indeed.
I looked at an old picture of the National Assembly, and there was young Don Hector. It looked like Elvis Presley and Don Hector. Get a lot of gal in your days. Let me try to see if I could be of some assistance. Those are very, very important questions.
I think his question pointed though is why would we go to the ICJ having had all of these previous agreements without adjusting, particularly the one that describes our Schedule 1?
Yes, because having a referendum is not changing the Constitution. You're not amending nothing to the Constitution. The list of all the areas that form the territory of Belize, including its maritime territory, that is not changed. We didn't have a referendum to reduce it, to tamper with it. We have a referendum to try and say that rather than getting into a situation that is going on in Palestine, where we could have a shootout with our neighbors, that we are going to take a legal route. We're going to ask the World Court to say whether or not those points that make the borders are lawful and that Guatemala has no claim to changing our borders. So having a referendum, asking the people to say yes to the ICJ or no to the ICJ, just putting to the people of Belize, asking their views, which by the way is not binding. Referendums and referenda is a legal word. Having a referenda is not the same as changing the Constitution or changing the borders. But he raised another point which I want to look at from a different angle. The matter of the compromise, which was an excellent hoodwinking of the people of Belize, because they signed an agreement with Guatemala, it's not explained to us. They wait like a year or two and then they go to the Senate to rubber stamp and turn it into a treaty. So now you have a treaty between two nations. How do you break a treaty with a bigger nation that you have agreed to do certain things with? People believe them and know what may happen to them.
How could you get an ICJ decision after a compromise has
because
already
you have gone to a referendum, so that the most democratic form of expression of the people's will is la vox populi.
So that puts everything that was signed before the referenda as it's not legally binding after a referendum.
It's too late when you go to the referendum and go to the court. A court will say you rested on your rights.
Yeah, you've made everything.
You legalize it. Yeah. I wanted to. Let me just make one other.
All right, because we got a caller. Hold on, caller.
No, caller come first.
All right, go ahead, caller.
All right, sir. Remember the whole land they keep with that. So what I'm thinking is that, morning, sir, Jimmy. I'm thinking that the two issues there, the compromise and the referendum issue that I think should take a different show. Because both of those issues...
No, we need another show for the whole thing here. Because those
are issues that have to be dealt with in isolation, no? But when they deal with the change of the Constitution, I would want to know what we are doing about the minister's discretion. Because minister's discretion clause in there is what makes lots of problems, you know. There are parts of the Constitution that are broken because the minister in his discretion felt that it's okay to do so. So I'm wondering if that was ever discussed. But thank you for being on there. And then other issues there, but the whole Guatemala issue, I think, has to be fleshed out at some point.
Indeed.
Going to the court, that and again on another matter, but going there was a good idea. You know, long we tried to get Guatemala to go and they wouldn't go, and we finally do, then they go and they say, oh, yeah, but all right, we don't want to go again then. Ridiculous. We can't fight them mano a mano. We have to fight them with diplomacy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Another excellent call.
Very important, very important.
Somebody...
But you know what it tells me too, though, Dickie, and I need to go back again with Minister Usher not opening the door for allowing the media, which is the fourth estate, to play an important role in looking at our Constitution. Look, all of these questions here that are being brought up become null and void when you have a committee which has become an elitist, PCC has become an elitist approach to looking at our Constitution if you don't give this broad consultative process an opportunity to hear the voices of so many people.
But right? All is not lost. Hold on. Listen, all is not lost because there is nothing to prevent the Prime Minister when he gets the report that in the course of he and his colleagues in Cabinet deciding whether there is merit, because if they decide there is no merit to the report, there will be no referendum on it, you know, which might just be a very good thing. Thank goodness that was in the law. So, but there is nothing that prevents the Prime Minister and the government or elected government from saying, here is the report. I have 100 and whatever number of suggestions and recommendations. Now that I have this, let me hear you all discuss that. Then we don't have to have a very wide ranging, we would want, you could still have that, but point is that what is in there, you would help. You have raised a fundamental issue that there were talking that the supremacy of God is coming under attack. They don't want those words in there because the supremacy of God means something. Now, which God are we talking about? I have a God, but that God is the Father of Jesus, and that is my bringing up. In your case, the way you dress, the way you worship, your discipline comes from your worshiping. You call your God Allah. I'm told that we're all talking at the same God.
We're all talking, but
and it's just a way of how we respect and worship that God. No?
Yes.
So, but you know, I don't know if I'm at liberty because Krem started a thing, no call, no name. I wish I could amend that. I wish I could amend that constitution.
I don't know that who say no call, no name.
But the person who called there want to say that thanks to you, you have, why you open up my mind, man. I need to, you know, G might read you. I have spoken to this administrator at the Belize City Council. I have gone around the city because I'm a child of the city. And although I had said to my children, burn me and throw my ashes over Half Moon Key, I'm going to amend that. I want to be buried on the south side. But I've seen a couple of abandoned empty lots, and I want to follow your example, G. Mike Reed. I want to invite you to help me so that we could get a lot, so we could open another park. We need to open playground park for our children, for our young people, for our families. So, but that is only one of the many things that we have done.
Revive a dying south side because...
In all kind of ways, no?
in so many ways.
That's another show too, by the way.
Indeed.
But let me big up Pereira, Esteban Pereira. He has opened up a little area as well by the sea. The current leader of the opposition used to live right in front of that small, I don't know if he even have a name. It is not far from where the Prime Minister used to live. Out on the seashore drive or something like that. But Mr. Pereira, attorney at law Pereira, successful millionaire attorney, Pereira has in fact invested in that area, and it's a nice little.
And he's always been that type of person.
He's like that. It's a after pipe.
He's always.
All right.
I know the child push himself in the public.
No,
so a lot of people would not even know.
I'll send you a bill.
He's a good brother.
Well, let me bring this up because I understand from Cliff that we're coming near to the
we're almost at the end.
I want to say that the last time I was here, Lee Raj called And every time I pass Rogers Stadium, it is hurtful to me because personally I grew up, I knew who the person was. Yeah. We have Rogers Stadium because of Lindy Rogers.
Absolutely.
Same thing that G. Mike has done. Yeah. Lindy did it in his time. That he make sure he saved that spot, that area for sports. Yeah. There used to be boxing used to take place in there. Used to softball. We produced our softball champions out of Rogers Stadium. Indeed. And they have all kind of things on the wall, and all of them very good. But how Lindy Rogers' name, much less his picture. And since I'm that, let me bring out two other peeves. The other one is when I pass New Road. There is a building that used to be Liberty Hall. My grandma, who was a diehard, take me there because they used to have Philip Golson and they used to have entertainment. They used to do speeches, read poetry, get your brainwashing about the Battle St. George's Key, all those things at Liberty Hall in front of all of our eyes. We Creoles, we deserve what is happening to us because man, that represents our history, man. We can raise money to save Liberty Hall and put it to some use. And then finally, you know, I promised myself, and I'm going to say it publicly, and the police will come check me when it happens. I am calling on these young Mandingo who live on the south side. When it rains, I don't want you to get arrested and charged for damage to property. I want to haul down that statue that they have for Isaiah Martha. This is a great Belizean businessman, millionaire from selling coconut.
That's right.
And he got like a monkey, like a monkey rasta.
Man, I don't know who, you know. I know David and
no,
so
man,
many
whoever did it at the time, they meant well, but
they gone some man in a Quintana Roo or someplace like that and do a leaf statue. And look at Golden Brothers, I'm so happy if you get one statue. Put one ugly statue up there. Man, you got this brother now, Stephen Okeke.
The George Price.
He has done almost all of it.
Yeah, Golson.
And he's been here over 20 years and nobody has said to him, boy, look here, we want to replace that statue.
Please,
we
man.
keep that ugly look, man, look like one ugly looking statue that they got.
Listen.
I'm glad you bring that point.
Yeah, Mayor and City Administrator Van, please take down that statue. It's an insult to us as the Creole people in our country. Our businessman was not known him monkey, man, not do we that. Yeah. Take it down because I pay somebody if he broke it up. Please, man. Serious. In fact, I have one or two more people, but I just want
to... The one that I wanted to touch on, we can't do it because we're beyond the time now, is this revolutionary move on the part of the House of Assembly or the Parliament in Australia that is saying that they are going to block Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and all of these things here from our children, their children, and saying to those platforms that you are paying $50 million if we catch you doing this and allowing our children to do it. Now, our children now in this new world of, whoa, you need to get them used to technology and you need to, so we put these electronic equipment in the hands of vulnerable children. And the kind of stuff where they can't grab, man, look here, pornography is coming across Facebook.
Pornography, no bad, the devil they in there.
You can pick up this thing here and, you know, it's like the argument that we used to have some years ago when cable first came. If you remember when cable first came, then they jump up and down and say, boy, you can't you can't make our movies and X movie. Man, it's gone way beyond that. You could pick up the instrument here and get pornography, first class pornography right there in the instrument.
I don't quite know what is first class pornography.
I don't even know it's a first class. But you're getting pornography on.
Well, let me.
And the children are going for it.
All right, let me segue and say this first of all, though. What you are saying is that for the first time on the planet, for the first time in the world, yesterday, Thursday, Australia.
In Western countries, because the Chinese may do it a long time.
Yeah, I was coming to them.
All right.
But Australia has literally passed a law by a huge majority.
Yes.
There were a few who were opposed.
Yeah.
By a huge majority, they passed a law that whoever in charge of Facebook, TikTok, X, what used to be Twitter, Instagram, all those platforms, You cannot allow that to reach children. In other words, a child gets his hand on one of these gadgets and start to TikTok, they will be fined, hefty fines.
Yeah.
So this is so revolutionary. This morning I'm reading the British press. They're saying they discuss it too.
Yeah.
Their minister responsible for education and responsible for young people, and so he's saying it's an excellent idea. Yeah. I need to have some quick research to get some data.
How do you police it?
How you do it? Because man, that is a big opening.
Very important.
That we just give up. We give up, you know. In Belize, we give up. You're driving the streets. I must say that they're attractive. You drive the streets. You could say it's not 100% nakedness.
Yeah.
I think it's what was your word? It's top class nakedness. It's like you see a little thing over the breast and then the pants.
Yes.
The body of a woman, you know, God make woman like, after I make man, I realize, well, I could do better than this. I can do something else, you understand? And the point I'm making is that we allow the American culture to come into the brains and the minds of the young people.
Yeah.
So we are hedonistic. The great King Solomon wrote the Ecclesiastes, the book Vanity of Vanities, said the preacher. Yeah. We live for vanity. We live, I don't want, listen, the other thing is, and I'm going to come back, the other thing is the women in Belize have now become, to borrow your term, these are top class international women, you know. Our women could stand alongside any woman anywhere and beat them in terms of natural looks and natural
beauty.
It's like George
without no extension.
It's like George Gab take a chisel and sculpt out these women and say, man, if you were in America, you make a money just how your body build. It's incredible. Yeah. But let's come back. China has been protecting their culture and their people against the influence of the Western world, and particularly United States of America. I read many years ago that they only allow like 12 American movies to show in their country for the year.
Yes.
They don't want you to, my boy, you can't watch an American movie without seeing nakedness, without seeing people snort cocaine, without seeing violence, blood, killing. You know the people when you and I were young, when all of we Cliff, all of we go to Palace and we see the movies.
Don't scream that.
You know the bad man in a damn movie there. Today the bad man of the boy, he got a star, he got a gal, he got a car, he got a... They turn the world upside down.
Of course.
Look at, and then listen, while they are pushing that into our minds, guess what has happened? In the first time since I've been alive, and I was raised by grandparents and my mom, and in all our time, in fact, my grandfather never had no cinema.
Yeah.
He born 1885. Right front of our eyes, the government of Israel is slaughtering Palestinian people. The count based on how much bodies go to their hospital is 44,270 human beings have been killed.
Slaughtered.
The British media have written in several of their articles that count is not the count, you know, because these big buildings where they bomb and they collapse on people because you can't find nobody and bring the hospital doesn't count those bodies. They are estimating another 20, 30,000 more people have been buried in the rubble.
Yes.
We have seen the pictures. Then people bomb churches, they bomb schools, they bomb hospitals, they bomb residences, they bomb refugee camps. People who are running for their lives, they bomb them. They are now killing the police because they say that the police are part of Hamas. So when you kill the police, the criminals, they have more chance to operate as well. Front of our eyes.
Total chaos.
Front of our eyes, one nation, they slaughter the citizens of another nation.
With complete impunity. Exactly.
Man.
Exactly. We don't worry about no Geneva
Convention. And guess why? Because everybody there on Facebook, Instagram. As we get front and plate at dinner, we take a picture, it click, and
yes, that's what we're actually walking down the street now. To pay attention because we're into this here and there.
And we are being influenced.
But we don't got no choice. We're beyond the time our people are saying we like Dickie, but enough is enough. We can't go any further. So I just want to thank you, brother, for being here. We're going out with this ad break here. Very important conversation, and we have to do this more often. We need for the government to take seriously the role that the media places in our education in this country. It's not in schools, it's in the media. The media is the most influential factor in this Western world today. If it was not for the media, we would not know what's going on in the Gaza. Social media is playing an important role, but our local institutionalized media has an important role to play, and government needs to make sure it is subsidizing the media and not leaving it up to the marketplace, which puts some media in a disadvantageous position to not be able to do the role that the media has to play. So I want to thank you, Brother Dickey. Every time you come here, it broadens the conversation, and we need to keep that going. Belizeans, stand strong, stand firm, do the right thing under all conditions. We thank Tony downstairs in the simulcast. We thank Mr. Belide upstairs as the MCO, and of course Cliff.
One and only.
How would we do without Cliff? This is the man that really takes care of business. Belizeans, we're gone!